Hi everyone. Again, apologies for not making a video this past Sunday. I usually try to make a video every week, but I was just feeling a little bit under the weather. My family's been passing something around for probably since Christmas. So I'm sure a lot of you have been hit by flu or whatever. In my son's daycare, there are normally like 9 kids in there, but there were only 3 last week. So anyway, but again, deep apologies. I wanted to hop on here and just kind of go over a handful of things as you start writing these literacy narratives, but also to make a comment about the discussion boards because I was able to grade your discussions today. And again, apologies. I'll try to get asynchronous work graded by tomorrow or Thursday at the latest. Again, apologies. I kind of came home and took a nap yesterday. I hope you will forgive me for being a little bit under the weather. But anyway, I just wanted to make a comment about storytelling. A lot of you had some really, really wonderful, insightful things to say about this particular one. But I wanted to not fuss at y'all a little, but just to kind of remind you to make sure you're doing your peer replies. I know I did not specifically put the peer replies in this, but it is in the syllabus, and I did mention it, at the beginning of the semester that, every Wednesday you need to respond to the initial prompt. That is worth 6 points. And then your 2 peer replies are worth 2 points each for a total of 10. I did not count off this week for not doing your peer replies because I know a lot of you are still kind of getting used and this is your first online class. And so, grace is given as you're learning. But just moving forward, make sure that you're giving those 2 peer replies because it can really negatively impact your grades. So for example, last semester, in fact, I had a student that did everything near perfect in the asynchronous work with her assignments, had A's like percentage wise for all of those particular grades. But when it came to discussions, she would usually respond to the prompt, but she did like no peer replies. And so when all the points were tallied at the end of the semester, she actually wound up losing a letter grade because she did not participate fully in discussion. So make sure every single week 2 peer replies. Excuse me. And also make sure you watch the videos. So I try not to give fluff work just because I'm not personally a fan of it, but sometimes I do share things because I genuinely think it will help your writing. I could tell 1 or 2 of you did not watch the video. And so just make sure that I try to make sure if there's any videos, it's no more than 20 minutes max. Because I know it's kind of hard to pay attention for any longer than that. And your discussion boards actually take the place of what's supposed to be an hour or 50-minute long class. And so, you might have some slightly longer articles to read or a video to watch because like in an online class, things like discussions or the asynchronous assignments, those are technically supposed to take the time of what you would experience within a classroom for that time period. So just make sure you're actually watching the videos, commenting specifically, like I could tell the ones who didn't watch it because they were kind of vague. I do read your work. Even if I don't comment it directly on the discussion boards, I am reading all the stuff that you're writing. So just be aware of that because I want all of y'all to get the best grade possible and get as much out of the class as you possibly can to help you in your future academic endeavors. But all that to say, there were some really, really, as I said, insightful things that I noticed in the discussion boards. A lot of you pointed out the whole make me care aspect. And that's like really at the heart of most writing. I mean, you want people to stop and go, I want to read that. I think that this is also very applicable to a lot of you who are probably writing scholarships right now, scholarship essays. I'm on a scholarship committee for a particular scholarship, and I will tell you, it's hard when you've got like just scholarship after scholarship after scholarship that you're reading, and then they all start to sound the same after a while. You really want one of those that from the get-go just makes you care. And one of the ways you can do that is experimenting with chronology a little bit, like Andrew Stanton started his story at the end and worked his way forward. There's nothing that says you have to start at the beginning and go in chronological order. You can start in the middle of the story. Like I know a really common scholarship prompt is, tell me a time where you faced hardship, and a lot of times those essays start with when I was a child, blah, 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 this happened, right? A better way to start something like that, and this can even be applied to your narratives. So let's say you want to write about a traumatic experience of speaking in public. You want to hook your audience in to give them that connection. So like a great example of this is like, I'm a horrible public speaker, and this is really gross and probably TMI, but when I get nervous, I just start sweating. Like, it's just gross. And so I could start an essay with, I could feel the sweat trickling down my back as my heart started thumping in my chest. I nervously shifted through my notes and looked up to see a sea of 100 eyes staring back at me. That people can relate to that. I mean, especially if you have a fear of public speaking. And so that's going to draw people in because they're going to have say, yeah, I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like to be nervous. I know what it feels like to feel that my heart is going to jump out of my chest. I know what it feels like to just feel like everyone's staring at me. That's going to draw somebody's attention because it's going to be different than the 10,000 other essays they just finished reading that are going to start the same. So that's a way to make people care. In your asynchronous work, I do have a link to the gem. You're going to be reading a student essay. Again, do not compare yourself to this just because this essay has gone through several revisions. It is really, really good. But one thing I just wanted to point out real quick, and some of you have already done the asynchronous work, so you've already noticed this, it's not perfect. It doesn't have perfect grammar. You know, when you have dialogue, there are some little elements of dialogue here. Technically, you're supposed to start a new paragraph every time you start a new line of dialogue. And she didn't do that. And you know what? It's okay. Narratives are probably the most forgiving genre of writing. I'm not going to be grading your grammar strictly on this. I'm going to be grading it more for the content because a narrative is one of those genres where you can write how you speak. And I'm not going to count off for it unless the grammar is so distracting that I can't follow what you're saying, basically. And so I don't want you to stress over something like that. That's the reason I start with a narrative. It's just because that genre allows for that grace within it. But this one's just extremely good. But also, you know, take a moment to look at the other ones because they're also quite good, just to get some examples. Through there, that was that one. My experience with literacy part 2. Sorry, let me go back to it. That was a little all over the place. But another thing I like about this one is it doesn't give you all the information up front. It's that whole theory of 2 + 2. She slowly gives you 2, then she gives you 2 more, and it takes a while for you to figure out 4. And so I think that she did a really, really good job with that. But just so you know, I will link the gem in this course announcement. If you go to this content tab at the top of the page, and scroll down, we have several issues. So a literacy narrative is actually a required assignment for us to give at MTSU, or I should say a highly recommended, which also means required. But if you go click on some of the other years, you can also find some other essays of literacy narratives, just if you want a few more examples. And I highly recommend that you do that. So anyway, if you are feeling a little bit stuck, if you need some help, don't hesitate to reach out. I do have a lot of students who will like email me their rough drafts just because they're nervous and they want me to take a look at them to make sure they're going in a good direction. Feel free to do that, guys. You're not going to inconvenience me. It's all part of having an online class. So feel free to do that if you feel like you need to. Next week, we will do a peer review of whatever rough draft you have for your literacy narrative. We will do those in the discussion boards where you'll upload a copy and then you just have to comment on one other student's. If no one comments on yours, I will by Friday. But yes, so make sure that by early next week, you have a copy of a literacy narrative ready to upload into the discussion boards. But as I said, if you're stuck, struggling, email me. Glad to help you. Make sure you're completing your discussions like thoroughly. And yeah, just have a great week. Please stay well. I'm going to be all motherly and say, wash your hands, get a good night's sleep. And hopefully everyone will be healthy. And let me know if you need anything.